India many times, he's been to China many times. Very familiar with the Chinese Buddhist holy places as well.
The four mountains, the four holy mountains.
And say if you make the pilgrimage to all four mountains, then it's quite an achievement, quite an attainment. Which two did you go to?
Buddhism.
Oh,
Buddhism.
more difficult. Buddhism is difficult to get to.
Snowing up there. Minus 24.
The Buddha statue has a big elephant.
That's
Samantabhadra.
yeah, amazing.
Said he went to sort of study and see how Buddhism is in China. And the people still have a lot of faith. They go to these places and they make a lot of merit, a lot of dana. So they build up these temples, very beautiful statues, and the buildings now very large.
Especially the old people, they are very devoted. 4 o'clock they're up at the temple and doing all things and praying, starting with the sutra.
Probably the main weakness or what's missing at the moment, there's not much teaching of Dhamma, like how to meditate and about Dhamma practice. Very limited what is being taught at the moment.
Some people are free to practice Dhamma at monasteries in China.
Nowadays there is a lot more freedom, and the government actually encourages or welcomes people to have faith in Buddhism, because see, the religious practice, it helps people to have a better state of mind, good mental health, and they're not so maybe aggressive or prone to complain and protest and so on, because they're practicing more. So generally they are allowed to go to temples and practice.
My son has got epilepsy, and I'm just wondering what is the cause of him having it that he has committed.
How old is he?
He's 13 this year.
Of course, Buddhism teaches that we are all receiving the fruits of our karma. So generally, if one has illnesses, different types of illnesses, it comes from having harmed animals in the past. If one's killed animals or even human beings in the past, then usually the karmic result is a short life. But illnesses and injuries tend to come from harming animals. And similarly, people with long life, usually that's the good karmic result of not having harmed animals in the past. So it's, the Buddhist teachings teach us to reflect on karma, the fruits of our actions, the good we do, the negative karma we make, keeps bringing results back to us. How do they look after the epilepsy? What kind of treatment do they give?
Oh no, it's at the moment he's on medication. So therefore, because I think his is like not so severe, but he's being put on medication. So he has to go for about 18 months before if there's no recurrence, then he will be as like epileptic free. But yeah, so he only had it late last year.
It's important to try and help give them a lot of love and support so that he doesn't become stressed, which the stress might bring on another attack. So you try and encourage him to relax and then help him not to get into a stressed state of mind.
Excuse me. I've got some stray kittens in my house, and the neighbor, unfortunately they are not well, so I feel a lot guilty to take them to the cat society.
Did they kill them? Or?
I'm not sure, only I pray hard that they don't kill, but unfortunately it's just getting very impossible. We couldn't catch the mother cat.
if these cats, they didn't come because you asked them to come or you brought them there, they've come by themselves, they're strays.
Yeah.
So you have no real responsibility other than you want to help them, or temporarily to help them, so it's quite alright to take them to somewhere appropriate, like the RSPCA or the Cat Society, one of these places.
Yeah.
What they do after that, well, that's their decision. That's not your decision, your responsibility. Your aim is just to help them in the way that you can. And obviously, if it's causing you a lot of stress and difficulty just to keep them in the house, well, then the best thing is to take them to one of these places.
Yeah. It's just that if I don't catch the kitten, the mother cat, we tried, no one can help us. It's just that the mother cat went to kill birds and sometimes next door got 2 chickens, killed the chicken. So can I pray a swat nam every day for the kitten 1 week?
Chanting.
Yeah, swat nam.
Oh, have they gone yet?
They've gone to the cat society, but we're not sure, they won't tell us.
Oh, they have. You did take them already.
I took them.
Oh, okay. Don't have to worry about that.
Oh,
You
thank
didn't
you.
have any wrong intention. Your intention was just to do the right thing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ajahn.
When Buddha was enlightened and he gave his first teaching to his disciples, the first thing he said was, I was told that he told them that you should give up all sensual pleasures. Does it mean that he's encouraging everyone to join the Sangha? Or that only that you need that to be enlightened?
No, that teaching doesn't mean everybody has to go off and ordain, shave their head and become a monk or a nun. He's teaching us to reflect on the harmful results of indulgence in sense pleasures, and one starts looking at one's life and realizing, well, first of all, there's very negative sense pleasures and sensual indulgence, what you'd call unwholesome indulgence in sense pleasures. So things that harm us, harm other people, seeking pleasure, but we cause ourselves harm or cause other people harm. So you practice to restrain yourself from that. You practice sila, morality. You might still experience sense pleasures while you're keeping sila, like while you're living in a moral way, but you're not harming other people. Say in the way you experience pleasure, say you go out, you earn money, and you use that money to have pleasurable experiences. Well, as long as it's not harming anybody or harming yourself, well, that's what we call morality. But then he also encourages us to look further, sort of take a step further and see, well, even sense pleasures that we can, say, in a moral way still find in this world, we can enjoy pleasures of the senses in a modest way, a moderate way. Still brings us some harm, but it brings us attachment. We miss those pleasures, we attach to them, we long for them. So to reflect on that, to use meditation to start reflecting on the suffering of sense pleasures and attachment to that. That isn't to say to go to the extreme where you just cut off everything to the point where you're really stressed and suffering. You cut off all forms of pleasure in life and you're just experiencing pain, really. He didn't recommend that either. That would be too extreme. What he said is first establish morality, so that whatever sense pleasure you're experiencing it's done in a modest way where you're not creating harm for yourself or others. But then to start meditating and using wisdom to investigate, to see, well, sense pleasures in their nature, they have their side that causes us suffering, in that we attach to them, we long for them. To see that so that we start little by little letting go of the desire for sense pleasures through meditation. But you use sila at first, I would say as a layperson, it might be the 5 precepts. One doesn't say steal to get more money, to have more sense pleasures. One knows, stealing is wrong, causes suffering. So one just, you may earn money and have some enjoyment from that and have wealth and so on, but you don't harm others to gain that enjoyment.
Ajahn, going back to Kim's question earlier regarding the 13-year-old son who is epileptic seizure at times, is there any Buddhist way of helping the situation? Coming on my mind is most commonly done in Asian country is releasing life, animals, birds, or any Buddhist way of helping the situation?
These kind of actions, releasing animals, saving their life, may be destined for they'll be slaughtered, but we buy them from somebody and then release them or look after them. This is developing compassion and making good karma, saving a life. So that's something wholesome, a good action you've done. What you can do then is dedicate the goodness of that action, say to the person who's ill, say a son or a friend, and what you're doing is you're dedicating the merit, particularly to, we say, to their karmic debtors, whatever beings they may have harmed in the past, who there's still a karmic connection, that it's bringing them to receive the fruits of their unskillful karma from the past. You're sending the merit, sharing the merit of your good action, letting go of animals, to those karmic debtors. And sometimes that can actually have an effect for that person's illness to lessen, get less intense, less strong, their pain to get less. Occasionally even they get a recovery, though it's not guaranteed, but it can have an effect, yes.
So, in other words, there's no direct antidote to whatever illnesses in Buddhist teaching, or applying a particular method to lessen the suffering.
You mean, when you say antidote, you mean medicine or you mean spiritual?
Yeah, spiritual antidote, like particular practices or particular chanting or whatever actions that you can take, apart from like the general accumulation of merits.
Spiritual practice certainly can help in looking after illness and dealing with illness, even remedying illness. All the good we do, when we say doing good, we're talking about developing wholesome states of mind. The mind becomes purer from the good we do, whether it's good actions, generosity, charity and so on, keeping precepts, or meditation. And particularly meditation, you're really learning to focus your mind to make it peaceful, developing concentration and then developing wisdom from your meditation. All of that has an effect to bring the mind a great sense of peace and purity and clarity. And if you develop that more, that the goodness that arises from your meditation, you can use your mind and direct it. Even say in your own body you had some particular illness, some part of the body is affected, you could direct your mind in your meditation to that part of the body and send the goodness, the good energy that you're developing as your mind becomes more peaceful to that part of the body, or to look after the symptoms of that illness, and it can have a very good effect. Because when we get ill, there's two aspects to illness, isn't it? One is the physical side, physical symptoms or pain and so on. Then there's the mental side. The mind is partly is related to that illness as well. And some illnesses are directly coming from the mind. Sometimes illnesses are stress related or stress generated. We have a lot of unhappiness or stressful thinking, particularly over time, it can come in and give its result in our body. So then if we work on meditating and developing good states of mind, peaceful states of mind, so it's curing our mind, becoming more peaceful, more happy in our mind, that can often help to reduce the effects of illness or even remove some illnesses.
That's provided the patient is doing that. Because let's say the son is the patient and you're the mom, what you can do
for them,
for them, it's difficult to change the mind of another person.
Right.
So what could you do apart from giving all the love and whatever, and providing them good circumstances or good environment, good condition? Would that make a difference? I mean, obviously it may make a difference, but like I say, is there like a direct antidote that one can do in order, not a quick fix, but
a particular way of eliminating particular problems?
Much the same way. When you're meditating, you're developing a state of calm, concentrated mind state. The mind is peaceful. You can direct that to another person. You focus on that person. If they're ill, you focus on them and send thoughts of kindness, compassion to that person in your meditation. And again, we can send thoughts to also not only that person, but their karmic debtors, any beings they may have harmed in the past, that the resultant karma of them having harmed them in the past is that they are now suffering. This person, the patient, is suffering. You can send your thoughts of kindness not only to them, but to these karmic debtors as well.
Just exemplify that. My son had cancer and was given 6 months to live. I was a Christian and changed to Buddhism. The monk taught me step by step, do things for him, dana, everything. He's still living now, it's more than 12 years. I'm still transferring merit to him, and offering dana, transferring for him.
Oh, yes, it's possible. This is the power of merit, of good karma. You make good karma and you dedicate it to your son, and it can have a very good effect on your son as well as yourself.
But he doesn't believe much in it. He's still a Christian. And moreover, he's a doctor, so he doesn't believe spiritually. I still keep doing it.
Never mind, he's got his training in medicine and science, so he uses that as his way of thinking and interpreting things, and he's probably got his own explanation to do with the cancer, the retreat of the cancer cells and other things. I say, well, that's the cause for him not dying. He managed to live. Doesn't matter, you carry on doing your practice.
I still feel there's always miracle. I still feel that I have faith in Buddhism. Because from my own experience, I still have faith. I think.
And maybe the externals of different, even within Buddhism, different religions, or within Buddhism, different types of Buddhism, different schools of Buddhism, maybe the external practices and rituals and chanting is different, but the heart of the Buddhist teachings remains the same, and that is that the Buddha was enlightened through his own efforts. He understood suffering, its cause, and how to come to the end of suffering. This is what we call enlightenment, or the Four Noble Truths. What does the Buddha attain or become enlightened from? It's the Dhamma. Dhamma means truth. So we have the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. These are the triple gem. Every time you bring your mind to understand truth, and that's the Dhamma, your mind is coming to the Dhamma. So whatever the outward trappings of the religion and the different things we do, everything, if it's practicing true Buddhism, it's bringing you to understand truth, and it's the Dhamma.
Can I ask, generally when couples get married, they have children, and in our society we believe that because of past karmic connection, that's why they now come into the family and become your children. So some do come to repay kindness, some to collect debt or whatever. For couples who do not have children, whether by means of natural way or human being performed, does that mean they do not have any past karmic debts to repay or to receive?
Yes, of course, it's a kind of karmic result if a couple say can't have children. He just said one of the kinds of karma that would lead to that arising maybe in previous times, that couple have had the wish not to have children. I think having children is a lot of suffering bringing up children, so they've had that thought before. So the karma is that in this life their bodies are not particularly suited to having children for one reason or other, one medical reason or other, they can't have them. Maybe it's from that previous aspiration or thought and no wish to have children.
about the canning class for someone who never got married and never got involved in this sort of canning life.
What karma is it?
What karma is it? Social life, class.
If you're, say you're single and you're content, you're happy being single, well we say that's good karma. And obviously that gives you the opportunity to practice Dhamma, do many things, particularly pursue a spiritual life more easily, more conveniently. So if you're happy, then that's the result of your good karma. If you're in that position, you're single, but you want to be married, want to have children, that's a lot of suffering. That's a different kind of karma. Or some people get married, but then having been married and having children grow up, but they're always thinking, I wish I was single, I wish I could maybe go off and become a monk or a nun. That's another kind of karma. So partly it just depends on your view, your underlying view of what you're doing.
One more question about metta. Why is it so hard to have metta sometimes? I don't want to do that.
When anger arises, it'll take over the mind as a mood. At that time, very difficult for you to change that mood for metta to come into the mind. So that's probably not the time to really start practicing metta. You'll have more success when your mind is in a normal state, when you're feeling quite normal, natural. That's the time to practice a lot of metta. And the reason why we do lose our metta, we do fall into anger, is that we haven't done it enough, we haven't practiced enough, we haven't developed the experience or the skill to maintain metta, a mind of metta in different situations. So practice on a regular basis when you're feeling calm, in a sort of normal state of mind. Use that opportunity to practice metta, make it very strong, wishing yourself well, wishing others well, developing a sense of goodwill, may all beings be free from suffering. Do that regularly, then when the conditions are right that your anger would normally arise, you'll be able to draw on that metta to come into the mind at that point, to stop falling into anger.
I'm wondering for those people who choose to, a man chooses to live with a man or a woman chooses to live with a woman, does that bring either a good karma or unsatisfactory karma, or if they are peaceful with themselves, is that okay?
Just say for a man to fall in love with a man, a lady to fall in love with a lady and live together. If they're happy together, there's not necessarily negative karma in that. Where there may be some negative karma which is resulting in suffering is more to do with that couple in society. If the society around them doesn't particularly support what they're doing or sees it as abnormal or strange in some way, then all the karma that comes from that, and sometimes they have to hide or feel embarrassed, or there's various problems facing prejudice or something, that's where the karma of their decision to live together would manifest maybe in suffering. For themselves, that's a different issue. That might not be a cause for suffering or anything.
So they may choose to move to a place that's more accepting so that they don't have that prejudice?
Maybe by just changing where they live, going to you might say a more accepting society or group of people, there may be some superficial advantages, sort of on the surface more happier, more stable, but they've still got their minds with wherever they go, and probably there will still be some unhappiness or unease in the mind from the karma of still being different from the majority of people around. And that's something they'll have to work with, and it's just an internal thing which will stay with them wherever they go. You're saying when they get to the point, somebody gets to the point, say, where a man starts to love another man, a lady loves another lady, the mind has slightly changed over from what you might call a normal state of mind. It's gone in one direction and more extreme than normal, and that will have its results differently. It might bring different kinds of suffering to that individual, but it's a very internal thing. It's not necessarily anyone else will know much about it, but it might affect how they feel, how they think. most useful, skillful thing to do is maybe not necessarily to have to move or find some better place or anything. It's more just to try to lead a skillful life. Practice generosity, kindness, compassion, lead harmless life, don't cause trouble for others. Try to develop oneself spiritually in meditation. Doing those things would be the most beneficial.
Thank you for my question in regards to my meditation.
Yeah.
So when I practice meditation, I do close-eye meditation, but sometimes I'll feel like I need to open my eyes. But I'm not sure whether it's because I'm thinking too much or something is making me open my eyes. But if I do open my eye, I'm just afraid that I may lose concentration. So should I just continue like just ignore and close my eyes or open my eyes?
It's in the end, if your mind is peaceful, it doesn't really matter whether your eyes are open or closed. If you're maintaining that sense of peace as you're meditating, then they can be open. But practically speaking, as you're meditating, if you find you get to the point where you lose concentration or you start thinking a lot and you start opening your eyes or want to open your eyes, well, you let the eyes go open, but notice you've opened your eyes. Maybe you just bring your eyesight down to the tip of your nose, your eyes are still open. Just take a few deep breaths and relax, and then try closing them again. You might find that helps you to carry on meditating. But if you find you get to the point where you have to open your eyes, and you're not comfortable, not peaceful anymore, you have to open your eyes, well, don't force it. That's maybe your own mind telling you that's enough meditation for the day because you're just not peaceful at that time. So that's okay, you don't want to force it so that you're feeling uncomfortable or stressed.
So if we were at peace in our mind, does it matter whether we actually go on vegetarian diet or eat meat? Or should we practice on compassion and avoid eating meat? Because I was told that certain country, the monks still being offered meat and the Dhamma offering, and therefore they do accept eating meat as well.
The Buddhist teachings don't actually say or teach to eat meat or not eat meat. It talks about letting go of mental kilesas, mental defilements, which are based in greed, anger and delusion. So the teaching the Buddha gave for eating is to learn to practice moderation, to eat the right amount, a modest amount, not to indulge in greed for food. So if you are eating meat, well, don't indulge in eating a lot of meat, become very greedy for meat and attached to meat. That would be increasing your attachments, your mental defilements, and it would be a cause for your mind not to be peaceful. It would be an obstacle to your progress. So that's the approach to take, is to practice moderation.
So it's not the importance of being a vegetarian to practice compassion and therefore purify your mind as such.
In the ultimate sense, to make your mind pure, purify the mind, this is a practice of meditation, developing states of calm, concentration, and then investigating truth to see through the delusion of self, the attachment to the sense of self, and this is what will purify the mind. And that's independent of eating meat or not eating meat. Some people choose not to eat meat and be vegetarians because it helps them to develop metta and compassion and kindness, and that's a very supportive quality for the mind becoming peaceful and for developing wisdom from that. So it's nothing wrong, and it can be very good, helpful in their practice. If somebody is choosing to eat meat, then the important thing is for them to be modest and not let their mind indulge in the taste and the desire for meat, because that will become an attachment which will block the mind from becoming peaceful. So it's not neither one nor the other. The important thing is to see the steps that lead to purifying the mind. The important thing in training the mind and purifying the mind, we have to establish sila and morality. So if one is eating meat, one has to be careful not to kill, and also, not to make one's living killing. That's important. If one's perfecting the qualities of metta and karuna, kindness and compassion also, then, ultimately that brings one to the point where, say there's a dangerous animal threatening you, say a snake, it's a poisonous snake, it's threatening you, you still wouldn't kill it, even though it's maybe threatening you, you may lose your life. You wouldn't kill it. That's when you perfected your kindness, your compassion. You keep your sila, your precepts to the point that you will even lose your life, or ready to lose your life, rather than break your precepts.
In the world population, we are aware that it's keep increasing, and even in China with one-child policy, the population is keep increasing worldwide. I think it's like a population problem. But in Buddhism, to have precious human rebirth is very, very rare, and it's very difficult. So like, if you look back and now, so now the degenerate times we have always been told, so they should be like less human, taking human rebirth. So kind of can't tie the two equations together.
The real meaning of that teaching, that it's very hard, difficult to be born as a human, it's not necessarily just the physical form of a human. It really means the qualities of a human being to be born in the mind of a person is very difficult. And the qualities of a human being define, the word the Buddha used is manusa. Mana means the mind, usa means that it's high, so it's somebody whose mind is high or well developed is a real human being, and high or well developed means one who keeps the 5 precepts, follows the 5 precepts, they have morality. So that's difficult. It's difficult to find people who will keep the 5 precepts or live in a moral way just for a few days or a few months or a few years. Very difficult. People will keep morality for their whole life. Very rare. So actually, even though physical numbers of human beings, people are growing, but the actual quality of their mind, the state of mind, is not necessarily growing or improving. And that's where it's defined. It's defined in the nature of their mind rather than just their physical form. Have you exhausted all the questions today? Maybe that's enough for today.
In the room.
He has a book, you can't give it away, only has 1 copy, but it's a book of pictures of his monastery and also some relics of Ajahn Chah, our teacher. I'm just passing around. There's one picture you'll see of the monks bowing, he's bowing, and there's a rainbow light coming down on him. This is at Putosan in China, and it's the radiance, we say the Barami, the radiance of the Buddha's mind coming down. He says as that picture was taken, when the light is coming down, he was meditating in his mind, thinking of the goodness of all the Buddhas and thinking of all the sacrifice that a Bodhisattva, one who wishes to become a Buddha, has to go through. At that moment, that's what he was thinking, and this is the result.